What separates ordinary people from those who achieve extraordinary fortune? The answer will surprise you, because it's not talent, luck, or even intelligence. It's something you already possess, but have probably been using incorrectly. In the next few minutes, I'll reveal 5 fundamental steps discovered by Napoleon Hill, the man who studied the world's richest and most successful people for decades. And the best part, you can implement them today. The difference between a mediocre life and a life of abundance usually lies in decisions you make every day, but rarely notice. Napoleon Hill discovered this in his 25-year research studying over 500 millionaires. You don't need more resources, you need better strategies. And that's exactly what you're going to get today. Stopping your reactive behavior is the first step to becoming unreachable on your path to fortune. If you want to transcend mediocrity, there's something you must understand immediately. Every time you react impulsively, you give away your power. Most people live in a constant state of reaction. They're affected by any comment, any look, any situation that doesn't go as expected. And as long as you remain reactive, you'll be easy to manipulate, easy to predict, and above all, easy to keep in mediocrity. Napoleon Hill expressed it clearly when he said, "Self-control is the most important factor in developing a strong character." Uncontrolled emotions are a reflection of your unresolved internal shadows. In other words, if something disturbs you, if something destabilizes you, it's not because it has power over you, but because within you there's something you haven't yet mastered. And here is where the fundamental problem begins, keeping so many in economic mediocrity. Why do you react so much? Because you care too much about what you shouldn't. You care too much about others' opinions. You care too much about external recognition. You care too much about feeling accepted or approved. People who truly reach extraordinary fortunes have understood something that most never comprehend. Not everything deserves a reaction, and even less your energy. Every time you jump to defend yourself, every time you try to justify yourself, every time you respond with anger or frustration, you're making it clear that you can be affected, that others have control over you, even if minimal. But what happens when you learn not to react? When someone criticizes you and you just look at them calmly? When someone tries to provoke you and your face doesn't change a millimeter? When chaos happens around you and you stay focused on your goal? That's when you become unreachable for mediocrity and open the doors to abundance. How can you train this self-control that will bring you closer to fortune? Pause before responding. Most people respond without thinking. Someone criticizes your investment ideas, and immediately you get defensive. But when you train your mind to pause before reacting, you take control. Ask yourself, does this really deserve my energy? Does this reaction bring me closer to my financial goal? Almost always the answer is no. Observe, but don't get involved. Hill discovered that the most successful have the ability to observe without identification. Not everything that happens needs your immediate participation. Sometimes, the best response to preserve your focus is none at all. Learn to see situations as if you were a spectator in a market movie, not as the emotional protagonist. Practice what Napoleon Hill called selective indifference. It's not about being emotionless. It's about consciously choosing what matters on your path to prosperity. You can't prevent someone from trying to divert you from your goal, but you can avoid falling into their game. Do this exercise right now. Identify the 3 situations that most make you react and move you away from your financial goals. Is it when they criticize your business ideas? When you see others advancing faster? When things don't go as planned? Now visualize those situations and how you remain calm, centered on your goal, without allowing your energy to be drained by unnecessary reactions. When you master this control, something extraordinary begins to happen. People notice it. Some will be confused, not understanding why you don't respond as before. Others will be frustrated because they can no longer manipulate you. But the few who matter, those who can elevate you toward fortune, will respect you even more. Because the energy of someone who is in control of themselves is felt, perceived, imposed. During this week, every time something provokes an impulsive reaction in you, wait 5 seconds before responding. Observe how your body reacts. Tension, discomfort, anxiety. Take it as a sign that there's still something you need to train to reach that higher level of prosperity you seek. And we'll talk about that in the next point. When you learn to let go, you become more powerful than you imagine on your path to abundance. There's a truth few understand, and that Napoleon Hill discovered among the most prosperous. Attachment is the greatest weakness a person aspiring to fortune can have. Everything that binds you, everything you find hard to let go of, is exactly what keeps you vulnerable and anchored to mediocrity. People who truly achieve financial abundance have mastered the art of letting go. But here's the problem. Most don't know how to let go. We cling to safe but limiting jobs, to businesses that no longer work, to obsolete methods, believing that if we let them go, we'll lose something important. We were taught that letting go is losing, that moving away is giving up. But the reality Hill discovered is different. When you learn to let go, you free yourself to receive something greater. Indecision and procrastination are the twin enemies of progress, Hill said. He understood that people who fail to let go live chained to their past, their comfort zone, their limitations, and what they can never control. And here is where power lies. When you're no longer afraid to lose, you become untouchable to mediocrity. Ask yourself something. How many times have you stayed in a job that no longer allowed you to grow just for security? How many times have you maintained a business model that drains you just because you were afraid to innovate? How many times have you waited for circumstances to change instead of changing yourself? Here's the truth you need to understand today to move toward fortune. Nothing you have to beg to stay is worth it on your path to abundance. Nothing you have to force is truly yours. Everything that costs you peace of mind is too expensive for your financial goals. The most prosperous people have learned to let go quickly. They don't stay where they're not valued. They don't insist on markets that no longer respond. They don't fear losing an opportunity because they know that what's truly destined to multiply their fortune will never need to be forced. How can you let go without feeling like you're losing? Change your mindset about detachment. Napoleon Hill stated that every adversity carries with it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. Letting go isn't losing. Letting go is accepting. Accepting that certain jobs, certain partners, certain business models were only meant to teach you something and not to stay forever. Accepting that some investment opportunities weren't for you. Accepting that there are economic cycles that must close for you to advance toward true fortune. The reason most people don't let go and remain in mediocrity is fear. Fear of being without a stable income, fear of making mistakes, fear of later regret. But here's the trick Hill discovered. When you face that fear, you realize it was never as big as you thought. The most prosperous aren't fearless. They act despite their fear. Do this liberation exercise to get closer to fortune. Think about something you find hard to let go of today. It could be a job that no longer satisfies you, a business that's not taking off, an investment that's not bearing fruit. Now ask yourself, what if I simply stop carrying this? Imagine how the lightness, peace, tranquility would feel, that sense of freedom to pursue new opportunities. That feeling is proof that letting go is right. Repeat this phrase whenever you struggle to let go of something keeping you in mediocrity. I trust that what's meant for my prosperity will come without excessive effort. Because that's the truth Hill discovered. Nothing truly destined to multiply your wealth will need to be desperately retained. Break the pattern of emotional attachment to your current circumstances. The next time you feel the need to cling to a job, a client, a business model that no longer serves you, do the opposite. Step away. Observe what happens when you don't chase after what wants to leave. You'll discover that most times, when you let go with confidence, the universe surprises you with opportunities for greater abundance. If you still doubt whether something should remain in your financial life, do this definitive test that inspired Hill. Imagine it's already gone. Observe how you feel with that idea. If you feel peace and freedom instead of anxiety, you already have your answer. Often the problem isn't the attachment itself, but the resistance to accepting the obvious. You can't cling to something that's not destined to lead you to fortune. When you master the art of letting go of mediocrity, Your energy changes. You no longer live in a state of scarcity and fear, but of abundance and possibilities. People perceive you differently because the security of someone who's not afraid to lose is magnetic for opportunities. You have more control over your economic destiny because you stop clinging to what doesn't make you prosper. Letting go is the ultimate proof of confidence in yourself and your ability to create fortune. Those who can't let go remain slaves to fear and therefore to financial mediocrity. And there's something more powerful than letting go on your path to prosperity: the art of staying silent. And this is what truly differentiates the genuinely prosperous from the mediocre. We'll talk about that in the next point. Silence and mystery increase your value on the path to fortune. People who truly achieve financial abundance have mastered an art few understand: strategic silence. In a world where everyone wants to be seen, heard, and constantly validated, the one who knows when to stay quiet and remain reserved about their financial plans has an incomparable advantage: not revealing too much, not reacting impulsively, and not giving unnecessary explanations about your goals makes you someone others can't easily decipher in the business world. And what they can't decipher intrigues them and often attracts them to you. Napoleon Hill expressed it perfectly: keep your plans to yourself. The world doesn't need to know about them until they've been fulfilled. He understood that the most prosperous people are those who control their own financial narrative. They don't need to announce what they think they'll do, what they feel, or the steps they'll take to multiply their wealth. They simply act, observe, and let results speak for themselves. But most people have no control over their mouth or their energy when it comes to economic opportunities. They talk too much about their business plans before executing them. They over-explain their investment strategies. They try to justify their financial decisions to anyone who asks. And every unnecessary word they say is a piece of information others can use to get ahead, copy you, or even sabotage your plans. Have you noticed how the psychology of silence impacts your path to fortune? When you're too accessible, predictable, and talkative about your finances and projects, you lose appeal in the business world. Your value decreases because others feel they already know everything about you. There's no mystery, no depth, nothing to make them want to discover more about what you can offer. And this applies to all areas of your financial life. In professional relationships, if you're always available and tell everything you plan to do, you become a safe but uninteresting option for potential partners. People take you for granted. At work or in your company, if you reveal too much about your growth plans and strategies, others can get ahead or take advantage of your information. In life generally, if you always try to explain your economic decisions, give reasons for everything you do, or justify every investment you make, others feel entitled to an opinion on your financial life. Here's a fundamental fact you must understand: the less you reveal about your prosperity plans, the more control you have over their execution. Silence protects you. Not everyone needs to know what you plan to do to multiply your money. Not everyone deserves access to your strategies. When you start talking less and observing more, you begin to see the hidden game behind every business conversation. When you stay silent about your financial plans, you become more unpredictable in the best sense. Nobody knows what move you'll make next, and that gives you a huge strategic advantage. Others respect you more because someone who doesn't explain everything projects confidence in their economic decisions. Additionally, listening more and talking less allows you to identify hidden intentions in potential partners or investors, crucial for protecting your assets. How can you use mystery to your advantage to get closer to fortune? First, don't reveal your business plans until they're already underway. Napoleon Hill observed that many people fail because they announce their financial moves before executing them. Don't advertise your next big investment or venture. Just do it and let the results generate curiosity. Don't explain your economic decisions. You don't have to justify yourself to anyone for how you choose to earn, invest, or multiply your money. If you made a financial decision, stand firm and let the results speak for you. The need to explain your economic moves usually comes from fear and insecurity, not confidence. Control your body language when talking about money and business. Mystery isn't just in what you say but how you behave about it. A neutral face, a confident look, and pauses before speaking about financial topics generate more impact than 1,000 enthusiastic words about your upcoming plans. Learn to enjoy silence in negotiations. Don't fill every moment with unnecessary words. People who are truly powerful in the financial world feel comfortable with silence during a negotiation because they know they don't need to prove anything. Often, the first to speak in a negotiation is the one who loses. Make people wonder more about your success methods. Don't immediately tell how you achieved a certain financial result. Leave room for curiosity. Interest increases when there's something to discover. Have you noticed how the most prosperous people rarely reveal all the details of how they built their fortune? Be aware of the power of the pause. When someone asks you an uncomfortable question about your finances or business plans, don't respond immediately. Take a moment to think, to measure the terrain. That pause makes others feel that what you're going to say has weight and value, even if you ultimately decide not to reveal much. And never share your financial weaknesses with just anyone. People can use that information against you or to get ahead of your plans. Make sure those who have access to your economic vulnerability are people who truly deserve it and have demonstrated loyalty. For a week, practice the following to strengthen your silent presence on the path to prosperity. Respond with fewer words when asked about your finances or plans. Don't explain more than necessary. Be clear, concise, and direct. Observe more than you speak in business meetings. Analyze how people act when you don't reveal all your economic information. Use strategic pauses in your conversations about money and opportunities. Before responding, take a breath, maintain control, and above all, don't announce your financial plans before they're a reality. Let people be surprised by your results, not by your words. Can you imagine the outcome of mastering this art of strategic silence? When you control your information and don't reveal all your plans, people start to see you differently in the business world. Some will feel uncomfortable because they can't read your economic intentions. Others will admire you because you project a financial confidence few have. And some will try to decipher you because the unknown is always more attractive than the predictable in the world of opportunities. Here's the key. When you become a strategic mystery, power shifts in your favor in any negotiation or professional relationship. But there's something else that makes truly prosperous people different. They not only know when to remain silent, they also know when to prioritize themselves above everything and everyone. And we'll talk about that in the next point. When you prioritize yourself, the dynamics of power shift in your favor on your path to fortune. Most people live putting others first financially. They do everything to please, to fit in, to be accepted in their work environments, even at the expense of their own economic goals. And this is the error that keeps them in mediocrity, because every time you put yourself last, you give someone else control over your prosperity. Napoleon Hill expressed it clearly. No man can succeed in a line of endeavor which he does not like. He understood the importance of economic individuality, the process of becoming a financially complete and independent person. But you can't achieve this if you keep sacrificing your goals for people, jobs, or situations that wouldn't do the same for you. People who achieve true abundance have understood this. When you prioritize yourself, economic power shifts in your favor. Why does prioritizing your objectives change your financial energy? The problem is, we've been taught to feel guilty for thinking about our economic interests. Since childhood, we're told that being selfish is wrong, that we should give, that we should sacrifice. But there's a big difference between being selfish and having financial self-love. Economic selfishness is demanding without giving value in return. Financial self-love is giving value, but without allowing yourself to be drained or exploited in the process. And here's the key Hill discovered. When you start prioritizing your economic goals, people and opportunities perceive you differently. You stop being an easy and cheap option. You stop being someone who can be paid less than their worth. You become someone with clear economic standards. And in the business world, people respect those who have standards. Here's a truth you should engrave in your mind. Whoever doesn't prioritize themselves will always be an option, never an economic priority. If you constantly sacrifice your time, energy, and well-being for jobs, clients, or partners without receiving the same in return, all you're doing is training the market to give you less than you deserve. Think about this. If you're always available to work extra hours without additional compensation, they'll never truly value you. If you always say yes to poorly paid projects, they'll assume that's your market value. If you don't respect yourself economically, no one else will. People who are truly prosperous have learned to set clear boundaries, not because they're cold or distant, but because they know their time and talent are valuable and they don't give them away to just anyone. How do you start prioritizing yourself economically without feeling guilty? Learn to say no to opportunities that don't compensate you fairly without giving long explanations. You don't have to justify why you don't want to work for less than you're worth. A simple "no thank you, my rate is this" is enough. Napoleon Hill insisted that the definite decision is the mark of an educated mind. Stop giving value without economic reciprocity. If you notice you're always the one giving, the one making an effort, the one putting in all the work for minimal compensation, stop. Observe who's really paying what you're worth. Cut access to those who don't economically value your contribution. Not all clients, not all employers, not all partners deserve a place in your financial life. If someone only seeks you when they need your talent at low cost, eliminate them from your professional circle. Invest time in yourself, in improving your skills, in educating yourself financially, before pleasing external expectations. Don't put any job, client, or partner above your economic well-being. If something drains you more than it contributes financially, it's not worth it in the long run. Get rid of the guilt for prioritizing your prosperity. You don't owe your time or energy to anyone who isn't willing to compensate you fairly. If someone gets upset because you put a fair price on your work, that person was benefiting from you undervaluing yourself. Do you doubt how prioritizing can change your economic destiny? Do this experiment for a week. Say no to an opportunity that doesn't compensate you fairly without feeling guilty. Observe how people react when you stop being always available for the same low price. Take time just for yourself to evaluate your true market value without external interruptions. Reflect. How many times a day do you work out of commitment rather than for fair compensation? You'll see something surprising happens. Those who truly value your contribution will be willing to pay your price, and those who only wanted you for economic convenience will move away. And that's exactly what you want to advance toward true fortune. What happens when you become your own economic priority? When you start valuing yourself fairly, the market treats you differently. People who appreciate quality will stay and respect you even more, even paying your new rates. Those who were only there for your low cost will disappear, opening space for better opportunities. And those who previously took you for granted will suddenly feel they're losing a valuable opportunity. But here's the key Hill understood. When you give yourself the economic value you deserve, the world eventually returns it multiplied. And there's an even higher level you must reach on your path to fortune, the total transformation of your presence in the market. It's not just about prioritizing your value, but radiating an energy that makes the world perceive you in a completely different way. And we'll talk about that in the next point. When you reach this level, the world starts treating you differently, and fortune opportunities naturally arrive. When a person becomes unreachable for mediocrity, their economic energy changes radically. They're no longer someone who begs for opportunities, who chases clients, or who lets others dictate their value. They're someone who knows what they're worth in the market and isn't afraid to lose what doesn't suit them economically. People who have reached this level have developed a presence that's felt in any business environment. It's not something said, it's something perceived. When you enter a negotiation room, people can notice the difference. You don't need external validation. You don't need approval of your value, and that's why suddenly you start receiving more respect, admiration, and most importantly, better economic opportunities. Hill discovered a fundamental fact. People respect those who aren't afraid to lose anything. He spoke about the concept of economic and mental independence, the process of becoming a complete person without excessively depending on the outside world for sustenance or validation. When you reach this level, the way others perceive you in the professional sphere changes radically. Think about this. Have you ever known someone who doesn't seem to desperately need clients or work, and for some reason everyone wants to do business with that person? That's because economic independence is magnetic. When you're a person who confidently stands in your own value, people stop taking you for granted. Those who previously ignored your proposals now want to hear you. Opportunities arrive without you having to desperately chase them. Your presence becomes stronger in the business world without needing to say anything. Truly prosperous people don't have to prove their value. They don't seek to impress. They don't seek constant attention in the market. But somehow, they end up standing out. Why? Because confidence in your own economic value is magnetic for the best opportunities. See the difference? Someone seeking economic approval lowers their prices, tries to please all clients, wants to be liked even if it means sacrificing their value. Someone who has reached this level simply is present with a firm energy, knows what they're worth, maintains it without negotiating downward, and doesn't feel the need to constantly prove it. And here's the key point Hill emphasized. When you reach this mental state, people start treating you as someone worth knowing, hiring, or partnering with, even paying premium prices for what you offer. Reaching this level of valuation is one thing, maintaining it is another. Here are 3 keys Hill identified to ensure you never again become someone others can economically manipulate. Never put any client, partner, or employer above your peace of mind and your established value. If someone makes you doubt your market value, that person or entity doesn't deserve a place in your professional life. Don't explain or justify yourself when establishing your economic conditions. When you make a decision about your price or your value, stand firm. You don't have to convince anyone you're worth what you ask. As Hill said, if you cannot do great things, do small things in a great way. How you position yourself matters as much as what you offer. Surround yourself with people who also have this abundance and value mindset. If you surround yourself with insecure professionals who constantly lower their prices and depend on external validation, it's a matter of time before they drag you back into that cycle of undervaluation. When you reach the state of being economically unreachable for mediocrity, social and market dynamics completely change in your favor. People and companies that previously ignored you now actively seek you out. Those who thought they could pay you less than you're worth now feel uncomfortable in your confident presence. Opportunities start arriving without you desperately chasing them because people detect the energy of someone who knows what they're worth in the market. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to attract economic opportunities while others have to fight for every penny? The difference isn't in their technical skills, but in this presence we're describing. Napoleon Hill called it the pleasing personality, but it went far beyond being simply pleasant. It was about projecting unshakable value. If you really want to ensure you never lose this prosperity mindset, do the following for a week. Observe who tries to get your time, talent, or services at a low cost, and ask yourself if they really deserve a place in your client portfolio or professional trajectory. Every time you feel the need to explain or justify your economic value, stop and keep silent. True confidence doesn't need constant explanations. Eliminate any behavior that indicates desperation to be hired or accepted. Desperation can be smelled, and it's repellent to good opportunities. Each night ask yourself, today, did I act from confidence in my value or from the need for external validation? Can you feel what happens when you reach this level of valuation? When you finally reach this point, the world responds differently to your presence in the market. People admire you as a professional or company, but don't fully understand why. They'll often attribute your success to luck, connections, or special circumstances because they can't see the internal work you've done. People start treating you with more economic respect, even without you doing anything special. You feel a financial and mental freedom you didn't have before because you no longer need the approval of every potential client or employer. And here's the fundamental difference. When you're someone who no longer begs for opportunities, you automatically become someone the market seeks and values. But to get here, you need to leave behind everything that once made you dependent on external validation. The fear of not having enough, the belief that you don't deserve abundance, and the habit of constantly comparing yourself to others. That's what marks the difference between those who remain trapped in economic mediocrity and those who truly become fortune magnets. If you've closely followed each of these steps that Napoleon Hill discovered in his study of the truly prosperous, you should already be starting to feel a change in your perspective. You no longer see the world the same way. You no longer relate to money and opportunities as before. Becoming unreachable for economic mediocrity isn't an act of arrogance, but an act of personal power. It's understanding that no one has the right to undervalue your contribution, manipulate your financial decisions, or make you feel less than you're truly worth in the market. It's taking command of your own economic life and establishing clear boundaries that no one can cross. People who have reached this level no longer play by others' economic rules. They don't constantly seek approval from clients, bosses, or the market. They don't ask permission to charge what they're worth, and that's why the world treats them differently. Because when you don't desperately chase, you become the magnet for the best opportunities. When you don't lower your price, you become the prize others want to reach. When you don't constantly explain yourself, you become an economic mystery. And mystery, as Hill discovered, always attracts the best opportunities. What happens when you fully adopt this abundance mindset? Your presence in the market changes radically. You stop being someone who can be ignored or taken for granted economically. Professional relationships that didn't add to your prosperity naturally disappear, opening space for more valuable associations. Only those who truly value your energy and are willing to compensate it adequately will stay. Economic opportunities arrive with less effort because your confidence in your own value is magnetic, and people perceive it even without you saying a word about it. You have peace of mind because you no longer wear yourself out, trying to fit into others' economic expectations or please all potential clients. But this doesn't happen overnight. It's a decision you must make every day on your path to true prosperity. Every time you want to react impulsively to criticism of your work. Every time you feel the need to explain why you charge what you charge. Every time you doubt your market value. Remember what we learned from Napoleon Hill. You are the one who decides whether you remain easily accessible for mediocre opportunities or whether you rise above all that toward true fortune. Your challenge from today is the following. I want you to write in the comments this declaration to reaffirm your commitment to this change. I choose to be unreachable for anything that doesn't add value to me. My worth is non-negotiable, and I protect it. Let the world know you're no longer the same person who used to settle for less than you deserve. You're someone who respects yourself, who prioritizes yourself, and who isn't afraid to walk away from opportunities that don't adequately value your contribution. And when you do this, when you truly live it day after day, you'll see how the world starts treating you the way you've always deserved to be treated, as someone whose value is indisputable. Because being unreachable for economic mediocrity doesn't mean moving away from success, but approaching your best version and the fortune that has always been waiting for you. If this video has helped you see your value from a different perspective, make sure to like it, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe for more content that helps you elevate your mindset toward true prosperity. Remember to activate the bell to not miss any video that can transform your relationship with abundance. See you in the next video, where we'll continue exploring the keys to the mindset Napoleon Hill discovered among the truly prosperous.